In 1776, America took a giant leap. They declared their independence. This wasn't just about taxes or tea, it was about something bigger: freedom. The founding fathers, those brave thinkers, put pen to paper. They wrote about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These were more than words. They were powerful ideals. They set the stage for a new nation. A nation built on the idea that all men are created equal. But this promise of freedom was not for everyone. Not yet. The stain of slavery marked the very fabric of this new nation. The institution of slavery cast a long shadow. It made a mockery of the ideals of liberty and equality. How could a nation claim to be free when millions were held in chains? This contradiction would haunt America. It would test its commitment to freedom time and time again. The early years of the United States saw the expansion of freedom in some areas, but the issue of slavery continued to fester. Abolitionists, with their unwavering voices, spoke out against this injustice. Frederick Douglass, a former slave himself, became a powerful voice for freedom. His words and writings ignited the abolitionist movement. The debate over slavery grew more heated. The nation became deeply divided. In 1861, this division erupted into the Civil War. Brother fought against brother. The very soul of the nation was at stake. The war was a brutal, bloody affair. It ultimately decided the fate of freedom in America. The Union victory in the Civil War was a victory for freedom. Slavery, that evil institution, was finally abolished. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution enshrined this victory. It declared that all persons in the United States were free. But the fight for true equality was far from over. The legacy of slavery continued to cast a long shadow. Reconstruction, the effort to rebuild the South and integrate former slaves into society, was a complex and challenging process. It faced fierce resistance, giving rise to Jim Crow laws and segregation. These new barriers to equality would plague the nation for generations to come. The fight for freedom extended to the fight for the right to vote. Women, too, demanded their voices be heard. They fought tirelessly for suffrage, the right to participate in the democratic process. Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton became icons of this movement. They organized protests, delivered speeches, and even faced arrest for their beliefs. They argued that true freedom could not exist without equal political rights. Their struggle culminated in the 19th Amendment in 1920. This historic amendment finally granted women the right to vote. It was a significant step toward a more inclusive democracy. Section 5, The Long March to Equality. The fight for freedom continued into the 20th century. African Americans, still facing discrimination and segregation, rose up to demand their civil rights. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s was a testament to the enduring power of the American ideal of equality. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions with his message of nonviolence and his dream of a just and equal society. The movement led to landmark legislation. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 aimed to dismantle segregation and remove barriers to voting. These were major victories in the ongoing struggle for freedom and equality. Section 6, Freedom's Crucible, The Modern Age. Today, America grapples with what freedom means in the 21st century. Technology, globalization, and a rapidly changing world present new challenges and opportunities. The digital age has brought about new forms of communication and expression, but it also raises concerns about privacy, surveillance, and the spread of misinformation. The balance between individual liberty and national security is constantly being debated. The fight for freedom is an ongoing process. It requires vigilance, critical thinking, and a commitment to upholding the rights of all. Section 7. The right to bear arms, a contested freedom. Few issues are as divisive in modern America as gun control. The Second Amendment, guaranteeing the right to bear arms, is fiercely debated. Advocates for gun rights view it as essential for self-defense and resisting tyranny. They argue that any attempt to restrict gun ownership is an infringement on a fundamental right. On the other side, those advocating for stricter gun control laws point to the devastating toll of gun violence in America. They argue that the Second Amendment was never intended to allow for the unrestricted proliferation of firearms. They call for common-sense regulations to reduce gun violence and save lives. The debate over gun control is a complex one. It reflects deep divisions in American society about the role of government, individual rights, and the meaning of freedom itself. Section 8. Navigating the digital age of free speech. The First Amendment guarantees freedom of speech. This is a cornerstone of American democracy. But defining the boundaries of free speech in the digital age is increasingly challenging. Social media platforms have given rise to new forms of expression. They have also become breeding grounds for hate speech, misinformation, and online harassment. The question of how to balance free speech with the need to protect individuals from harm online is complex. There are no easy answers. Some argue that social media companies have a responsibility to moderate content and prevent the spread of harmful material. Others contend that any form of censorship is a slippery slope. They believe it threatens the very foundation of free speech. Section 9. The Future of Freedom, a Shared Responsibility. The story of freedom in America is an ongoing journey. It's a story of progress and setbacks, of triumphs and struggles. The quest to create a more perfect union, where liberty and justice are truly for all, continues. This is a shared responsibility. Each generation must rise to the challenge, engaging in thoughtful dialogue, respecting diverse perspectives, and working together to build a future where the promise of freedom is fully realized for every American. The fight for freedom is never truly over. It requires constant vigilance, unwavering commitment, and a willingness to defend the rights of all. The future of freedom in America depends on the choices we make today.